Good evening, everybody. What's up? I thought I wasn't gonna do that. All right, but anyway, you already know we back with another week. Let's talk about it. Of course, on that side of the screen over there, we got Jamal Williams. We're gonna give the full government, two-time Jordan Cup champion, and then on this side
Three
you
is
got,
loading, mother.
Eric Shelton. One-time Jordan Cup
One
champion.
time, one
Uh,
time for the one time.
One time. We back with it again, another week. Let's talk about it. Uh, this topic this week, I feel like, is a very touchy. You don't want to get too close to this when you might get burned, so we're gonna go ahead and address it. But it's talking about, yeah, it's hot. It's hot. It's talking about posing though, and I feel like every season we have an episode about posing, and I just think it's just because it's something that's super important, especially in bodybuilding. Like I think posing is super important, and I'm a posing coach. Jamal's a posing coach, so I think that's kind of why we hit on it. But we also care about you guys as the athletes who participate in these shows. Um, so that's kind of the premise of this episode. But let's just dive straight into it. So the first question for you, Jamal, we just animated today, but I guess the first question is, what is your take on posing? And also, I guess second part is, how should it affect your placing?
Man, I think posing is a big part of the game of bodybuilding, man. If it wasn't, then they wouldn't have posing in bodybuilding, correct? So if you can't pose, I think it should definitely. I'm not going to say you should come in dead last, but it should affect you in some kind of way, shape, or form. Because other athletes, they spend a lot of time on posing. They go out and get posing coaches. Then you got some of these people that don't take posing seriously at all, and they get on stage, and it shows. And some shows they end up winning first place, but they can't pose worth a lick.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I know, just kind of piggyback on that, I think posing is extremely important. I kind of definitely hit on it very importantly with my athletes. I'm like, hey, we got to go there and pose. So that's the one thing we don't want to be known for, is not knowing how to pose. And like you said, it is a slap in the face to the people who go and get these posing coaches. I think we always talk about, checking the boxes. Like first we do our follow our diet, then we do our cardio, and then we find out how to pose. Like I feel like posing is a part of that big three. But some people, it's just a big me. That's what they're doing. They're like, now I'm just coming out
Big
there.
me.
But no, I think posing is definitely important. But I'm gonna let's go into some scenarios, I guess, and try to break it down and kind of give a more in-depth look at it. So if there's a guy, let's say hypothetically, I don't want to put names out there. Say there's two guys, they're super close, all right? Super close. One guy can clearly pose. Well, let's say there's one guy who looked better. There's contestant A. He looks better. But contestant B is super close. Contestant A can't pose. Contestant B can pose. He looks good, but just not as good as contestant A. How should that fair place him there? Or what is your thought?
Bro, man, that's a great freaking example right there. So to me, contestant B can pose. Contestant A can't. So contestant B is going to show you more things than contestant A because contestant A can't pose, right? So when you get into the poses, he's going to make different things pop. Okay. Correct? Or that's how it should go, right? If you know how to pose, you can make different things pop in them poses.
Okay.
So if it's close and contestant B is showing me things contestant A is not displaying on stage, then I'm giving contestant B the head nod because he's showing me he put in the work with posing. He took his posing serious. And like I said, he's making other things pop in them poses that contestant A ain't necessarily displaying because he don't know how to pose. I hope I explained that good.
No, you did. I'm gonna follow up to make sure nobody got that gonna clip that up and try to get you in trouble. So the thing is, see, I got your back. I'm here. So the thing is, I always said this, and I think I said this even in season one. I feel like people can pose their way out of a placing, and certain people can pose their way into placing. Like, granted, if you have a crappy body or if you're not even a contender, there's no way. Like, and I know we seen this, and I'm pretty sure people been to stages and they see the best poser is the guy who's not even in shape. Like, you don't just because you can pose don't mean you're going to place higher. Like, you still got to bring a decent body.
Facts.
But in the situation that I gave, let's say contestant A that I gave the example, he can't flare his lats, he can't open up, all these things that he's hiding his physique or he's messing up his physique in regards for the judges to judge it correctly. And let's say contestant B is hitting all their poses flawlessly. Because of course, we're not necessarily going to talk about men's physique. Let's just say hypothetically bodybuilding or classic. Like there's poses where you're hitting those shot for shot next to somebody. So if there's a thing where you're making yourself appear smaller, you're not opening your back to show the width and the depth in your back, and contestant B, which is super close, is showing me all those things, then yeah, I feel like contestant B showed me more that day. Like, it's more so I would give that guy the head nod as well, just because it's like I always believe the best body should win. Like that's the saying. I think in most competitions, that's usually who wins, the best body. But in this instance, where contestant A is a little bit better, but contestant B is right there on his heels, but contestant A isn't showing me his shape, isn't showing me his symmetry. Like I can't just tell by you standing there. You have to show me in your posing. I feel like contestant B would get the nod. Like it's not like it's a blowout. Now if it's a blowout and the guy can't pose at first, but his body's significantly better than all the other ones, then it's like, all right, cool. Like, hey, bro, you need to work on this, but we can't really deny you for that. You know what I mean? Like if you can
Absolutely.
shred it, your symmetry, you got the shape, you got the size, and then the next guy is 10 pounds out of shape. Like I feel like that's a slap in the face knowing you did the work, except you didn't do the work on posing. But that guy, he's 10 pounds out of shape, but he can pose better than you. So I feel like mainly what I'm saying is just make sure you're checking all the boxes. If you're going to compete, you're going to do all that other stuff. Make sure you're checking the boxes on the posing at least.
Yeah, man, I definitely agree with you. And that's just you're just going back to, everybody want people to take natural bodybuilding serious, right? Who's going to take us serious if you see people on stage that can't pose, that don't look professional? Who's going to take us serious? Nobody. So do yourself a justice and learn how to pose. That's all we're asking. Just learn how to pose.
Yeah, and I think I think it falls down onto, um, I think it's more than just natural bodybuilding. Like I honestly look at the IFBB stage, I look at the NPC, and there's plenty of people who can't pose. I think that's the
Absolutely.
I think that's the lost art of bodybuilding, where people just don't take that aspect serious. And it's funny because I posed. I'm gonna just say I posed well into the 50s or 60s amount of people, and posed them. And it's funny how the first thing they say when you start teaching them how to pose is, "This is way harder than me working out," or "This is way harder than I thought." Like teaching somebody how to open their lats on the first day is intense. It's
Man.
intense. So it's like even beyond like even posing clinics. Like we done plenty of posing clinics together, and I don't think people realize how much that plays a factor or how difficult it is to learn posing. And I don't think nobody applies that much energy into that aspect of it.
Absolutely. And there's no better feeling than getting somebody that can't pose and you work with them week after week after week, and you're like, you finally freaking got it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I didn't think I was gonna be able to do it, but hey, you fucking got it now. So man, that's just an incredible feeling within itself, man. Just taking somebody from the ground and just watching them just go, 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 man. So I definitely love that feeling. But the thing I was gonna say is when I first started out, man, there wasn't these posing clinics. I didn't even know what a posing coach was. You know what I'm saying? And I'm kind of glad I didn't, because it made me take my posing more serious. It made me actually want to learn and, and help other people. So, and there's a lot of us out there. You don't have to necessarily come to me or Eric. There's a ton of freaking coaches out there, posing coaches out there, man. Just like I said, do y'all self justice and learn how to pose.
Yeah, you know how I am. Sometimes I get petty, sometimes I don't. But I think this is the time. Posing coaches, man. I think it's very important to do your research on posing coaches just as much as it is to your regular coach. Like, did you just hire the first coach that came and talked to you, or did you do your due diligence and go look at who did this person help, or what does his athletes that he helped look like? Because it's one thing, and I tell everyone this, and I mean I give all the praises to the good posing coaches out there, but they're just like there's bad regular coaches, there's bad posing coaches. The one thing, if a coach, and this is, I'm gonna just give this free game, if a coach ever tells you to pose like them and it's copy paste posing, leave that coach. Like, I don't care. Like, hey, tell him Eric sent you and told you that. Like, the thing is, I always tell guys the first day I pose them, the basics is the basics. I can teach you the basics all day and I break it down as much as I can. But then after that, you have to find your own swag, find your own angles and everything. I can't tell you to pose like me. Our physiques are two completely different physiques. Like if you're 150, 5'3", and I'm 190 and 6'2", our poses will not be the same. About the only pose that's gonna look the same is the back pose. So if a coach is telling you, hey, do just like I do, or copy this or copy that, hey, book a session. Hey, you might not go back, but that's all I'm saying.
Absolutely. And and you gotta realize too, one or two posing sessions ain't gonna do it for you. Yeah, I'm sorry, it's not. Definitely, if you're a new person to this, one or two posing sessions is not going to do it for you. So take that into consideration too. One thing I want to hit on before we, change gears. What about the people? They come on stage strong, right? But then as we start doing them quarter turns, they just start fading, 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 fading. Should that count against their placing?
All right, so I have equal feelings about it because I feel like if it's a posing thing, and because I faded a couple times, so that's why I'm sensitive to this. Not really sensitive, but I know it all too well. Posing conditioning is a real thing. Holding your poses, your body changes while you're on stage. Like you said, some people get drier, some people actually just fade, like their look fades. I think all of that should take account because in the overall, you could have been super strong in your class, but now overall, if you fade or if your posing isn't up to par, and is the guy who's probably in the overall, which is pretty close, right? I think it should 100% count against you because I know the times that I faded, it counted against me. The times that I got drier and harder, pause, as everybody know in bodybuilding, I got better. Like I was just like, yo, I deserve to win those ones. So I think that's kind of my thing about it. And the question, or it's not even a question, it's a rhetorical. And then I definitely think you should answer that. But the number one question I get is, well, when should I start with you? Or when should I hire a posing coach? And the answer to that for me is as early as possible. Do not hit me up a week in advance for a show and you never pose with somebody and say, hey, I want to do a posing session. I'm not going to take you on, respectfully. At this point, I had done that in the past, but then I realized I'm not doing this person any type of justice by trying to give them 40 minutes or 35 minutes worth of game for them to not be able to apply it in the show day. So if you're not hitting me up months or weeks in advance, like usually I always tell people I need at least 4 sessions to work with you and see what we can do. But trying to hire somebody the week before the show, 2 weeks before the show, thinking it's going to make a dramatic change and you never done this before, I would just say probably save your money till after your show.
Right. But to go back, absolutely, I think that should count. Like if you fading and fading and fading and fading, then fade your ass back to fourth, fifth place, man. But that's something, the people in the stands don't understand. Just going, us being judges, we understand that. So a person can look good when they first come out on stage, right? Let's say they in class A. They look incredible in class A. Class B goes, class C goes. Then we come back to, finals, overalls. The person in class A won first in his class. Then he comes to finals and he gets third. Well, why? Like, he just won because he wasn't as tight as he was when he first started off with, and vice versa. People can not be tight when they first get on stage, but as the show goes on, they get tighter and tighter and tighter. So that's just a little nugget for the people that's not really judged and don't know why that happens sometimes. That could be a possibility why.
Yeah, and prime example is, I like to throw ourselves to the wolves and let people know that we actually lived it or been in situations like this before. We talk about it and we speaking on situations that we've been in. Like for example, when me and you competed against each other, I know it was 2 years ago. Um, when like I'm a vacuum type of person, you don't really hit vacuums like that. You have really tight abs, right? So I was hitting the vacuum. So then sooner or later, once I started gassing, my coach even told me this. Once I started gassing, usually it's micro breaths. We take micro breaths and breathe out to make sure that our stomach don't inflate on stage. Like we're not breathing through our stomachs. Once I got gas, I was puffing and puffing up there, like my whole like stomach coming out, my abs ain't flexed. Like that should definitely count against me. Like if the guy next to me is composed, he's showing nothing but his abs, and I'm over here gassed because I'm breathing harder and I'm not showing abs or I'm flexing and unflexing. Like that should definitely play against you. Like, granted, I know they're saying, "Oh, this is a beauty pageant with muscles," but it's more than that because a beauty pageant or when a person's just modeling, they don't have to hit all these crazy poses and flex their muscles. So this is a little bit different, but I get it.
Fact. Hey, funny story real quick, and then we're gonna cut this thing. Go ahead and cut this thing off. But classic guys. I'm talking to all my classic guys right here. Whenever the judge calls out hands over abdomen, where in the hell do you hear hit a vacuum? That's all I want to know. He's calling out a specific pose. They want to see your abs. Why do y'all make y'all abs disappear and hit a freaking vacuum? He did not say hit a vacuum. Quit doing that. And that's one thing I tell my posing clients. We are not hitting a vacuum during that pose. He's not calling for a vacuum.
I mean, that's what Chris Bumstead do, so that's what everybody else is going to do.
Listen, if Chris Bumstead went and jumped off the bridge, is everybody else going to go do it?
It depends probably. On who you're talking to.
Yeah, probably.
But hey, man, we're going to end it on that note, man. This was a great episode. But the biggest takeaways, man, learn how to pose. If you're not checking that box before competing, go check that box. Talk to somebody. Go to a posing clinic. There's plenty of them. Do your research and show up prepared and get that pro card.
And even if you are pro, I hope you know how to pose because you're going to look silly on stage with a whole bunch of other pros that actually know how to pose. Never mind, man. Hey, let's end this before I go on a rant, dog.
Hey, until next time.